there's kind of something I wanted to leave you guys with, kind of some food for thought as the conversation sort of rolls along, and something I want to be talking about. It basically stems from, you may or may not hear me talk on a different podcast about how my dad is kind of a history nut, and so am I to an extent, but not as much as he is. He's so embedded in it. He's so immersed in it. You know, basically he'll take an article on history and he'll read it for hours and reread it and redraw from it. Like, he'll sit there and look at his computer screen reading about history like if he was watching porn or some shit like that. And basically it's a matter of, he gets so much out of it. He really gets a lot out of whatever the activity is that he's doing. He just immerses himself in it. He just, completely submerges his entire focus into whatever his task is. Whatever the outcome or the objective is, he sets a very narrow view. It'll almost relate because he almost like he zeroes into an objective, and he does not stop gunning for it, and no pun intended. You'll see what I mean in a bit. He guns for it until he hits his mark. That being said, he used to be a sniper in the army. He used to be a soldier. He was I'm not gonna spend a lot of time talking about it. He was a soldier in his youth. I guess in a sense, the mentality that was bestowed upon him was the characteristic of committing to something, committing to everything. Everything you do, like, go full-fledged, go full body, mind, and spirit into whatever it is you're doing, whatever the mission is, if you will, whatever the task at hand is. You always gotta, not settle for anything less other than completion. And that's always kind of how he's always approached everything. I think that's why he's always been fairly successful in his jobs, in his careers, in his endeavors, in his projects. I definitely learned a lot of that from him. Whatever he would set his mind to, even if he didn't start out particularly skilled at it, it was his stubbornness to not let it go, or his willingness to not drop it until completion, that would give him so much success and abundance to whatever the activity was. I speak from experiencing, from watching it, from literally seeing it happen. Him attacking something like if his life depended on it, every single little thing. And for that reason alone, he would always, even if he had never done anything before, he would always make everything look so easy, only because he would like completely embody himself in whatever the piece was. For that reason alone, he would always leave a trademark. His actions would always stir up conversations. I definitely learned a lot from that. I always made it my objective to get a piece of that, figure out how to get into that mindset with whatever it is I'm doing. He's always been a history kind of nerd, a history geek, and that's just something he does for leisure. Good on him. He's definitely interested on learning on the ways of some of the greats of the past, and it was so cool to watch him just sit there and take some of that in, and learn from some of the historical monumental personalities that existed at some point. And it wasn't so much that, it wasn't so much what he was learning about. It was the fact that he would take the time to completely dedicate himself into learning it. That really struck me as an important feature, or at the very least as a useful trait to have in life. It's cool to see that, because everything he would engulf himself in, he was a one of those people that his companions would always look to him to count as a loyal support. You know, there was never any doubt about where his commitment lied. Being a soldier, there, you know, I would imagine there has to be a certain level of inner loyalty that, you know, you kind of gotta have. Otherwise, you just, you know, there's no trusting the guy beside you. That also, you know, he used to be big time soccer player in his youth, and from what I know, he was a few leagues away from going pro. And I would imagine it was just because he was all about the game. He was all about embracing himself in the moment and figuring out the strategies and techniques and you know, figuring out every single little angle of the game to make him push the envelope of his team that much further. And you know, I can honestly say that, you know, meeting some of his, you know, his buddies and his teammates from the past, they would all say the same about how he was a team pusher, in that, you know, everybody looked to his drive to be driven themselves. Also, I can also testify for you know, back when he was in his, you know, his religious phase, when he got, you know, invested into the church scene and the whole religion portion of his life. He was always invested in whatever his position was. You know, so much so that whatever city we would spend any time in, or whatever church he would spend any time in, he would always quickly move up the ranks in position. So much so that he would always either be a co-pastor or a deacon by the time we would, you know, have to either move on to the next city, or the last one he was involved in, you know, just before he ended up calling it quits. He was a higher up deacon. You know, being in that type of political environment, you definitely have to be smart, and you definitely have to be committed, because it's a political body. It's a competition where, you know, guys will almost claw at each other to, you know, metaphorically, they will chew at each other to freaking get past one another and find another, you know, get to the next position, because, you know, for whatever the benefits are of those fucking things. My dad was always up there, and it was for nothing else other than he was just a focused guy. And if not to get ahead, he was just embedded in his activities for the sake of it not being a waste of time, if you will. Every single thing he got involved with, he wanted it to count for something. And so, you know, even if the activity wasn't wouldn't bring a substantial value or whatever, at the very least, whatever was involved in it, he would make sure that he would be recognized. You know, a big part of the game of life, a big part of anything that you get yourself involved in, it's all about reputation. My father definitely had a reputation. There was no shortage of people saying that guy was a hard worker, and I'm not trying to brag about my old man or nothing like that, but it's the truth. And it's really just, it's a mentality more than anything. It's a mindset of, if you're gonna do something, make it worth it, make it count for something, even if it's not substantial. At least leave people talking. You know, all in all, I kind of wanted to open up on that particular topic, because I want to stir that pot up a little bit, see what it, you know, what I can cook up there. And not that I want to start any sort of conflict or nothing like that, but